Before we get started with this week's video, I did want to take a moment to talk about the direction of the content of this channel going forward. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I really want to make sure that I'm focusing on providing content both related to coffee and animals, to make sure that I'm appealing to as broad of an audience as I can. So I do want to ask for those that view these videos both on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you're viewing this, give us some feedback on the videos that are coming up here over the next couple of months, because we want to hear your input to know whether you like the directions. With that in mind, I did start this video off with a little montage of me making this coffee. So this is a washed Rwandan coffee, single origin. We use this bean in quite a few of our affiliate blends, and it's a really nice kind of an easy introductory African coffee. So a lot of the African coffees are known to be very, very acidic when roasted light, have a lot of fruit and floral notes to it. This coffee does have those notes to it, but I think it's a little bit more approachable than some of the more extreme processed African coffees, or even some of the natural processed coffees from other origins like Kenya or Ethiopia. Like I said, please provide us feedback with the direction of the channel going forward, and then hope you grab a cup of coffee of your own and enjoy this next video. Thanks. April 23rd, 2022 has been the scariest day of my life up to this point. I've told this story a couple of times on other podcasts and have mentioned it on videos before, but I've never told the story directly. I wanted to take that opportunity today to do that, as we are approaching the 1-year anniversary of that event. The scariest day of my life was when I was bitten by a Canebrake rattlesnake near my hometown in South Carolina. I will show some footage shortly of the habitat where the bite occurred, but before we get into it, I wanted to mention a couple of things. So number one, I was not handling or attempting to handle the snake when I received the bite, and number two, I never saw the rattlesnake before it bit me. I was walking through right next to the truck, walking through some high grass area, and never saw the animal. And number three, the animal never rattled at all. It never gave any indication that it was there until I received the bite, which occurred on my left shin. We'll cut to the video of the habitat now to give you an idea of what the area looks like, and we'll kind of talk through what happened leading up to the bite. So the snake was actually sitting right here in this tall grass. The grass was higher at the time because it was a little bit later in the season, but the grass was higher, and the snake was actually sitting right here in this grass, and it blended right in. No rattle at all, nothing that would indicate that there was a snake there. I was walking up, actually herping at the time, looking for some rocks and looking for some snakes, and didn't even see it at all, and stepped right in front of it, almost stepped on it, and it tagged me on the shin. So wanted to show you guys where that happened, and kind of the environment that it was surrounding. Of course, it was something that I should have seen, obviously, because I was looking for snakes, but it was just right there, curled up, waiting to ambush some lizards or rodents that were hiding in these rocks. So now that you have an idea of what the habitat looks like where the snake was sitting when I received the bite, I want to recount a little bit about what happened from the time that I received a bite and maybe over the next 24 hours to give you a good idea of what happened. So thankfully, I suppose, I am knowledgeable enough about snakes to be able to identify the species of snake that bit me, understand the importance and the seriousness of that situation, and then understand what to do from there. So I hope that this video can help. If you don't know those things, can help maybe you learn how to do that. I'm not saying that I'm an expert, but in my case, it worked out as well as it could have in that situation. So I received the bite, as I mentioned, on my left shin. It felt as though I had walked into like a thorn bush. It didn't feel like a snake bite. I keep non-venomous snakes. I've been bitten by non-venomous snakes numerous times, so I understand what that feels like. This didn't feel like that. It felt like I'd walked into like a thorn bush and received a prick. I looked down, saw the snake as you would have seen in the previous clip from the habitat, and recognized what the snake was and knew the seriousness of the situation. So I immediately got back into the truck, which is only about 6 foot away from where I was, and proceeded to drive back to my parents' house, which was about a mile from where I was located when I received the bite. We called, so my mother is a registered nurse and has been for most of my life, actually all of my life, and so she understood the seriousness as well, called 911, and by the time I got back to her house, loaded in her car, and started heading towards the hospital, which is about 25 minutes away, the ambulance, which has a substation in the small town that I grew up in, was meeting us about a mile from my parents' house. So I got out of my mother's vehicle into the ambulance. The EMTs took a look at the bite. That was the first time that I had seen the bite since I had been bitten. So we pulled up my pants leg. There was a little bit of blood that was on my shin. And we could clearly see one puncture mark from where the fang went in. So it looked like, and it actually turned out, that I was only hit by one of the snake's fangs, which again helped my situation quite a bit. So the EMTs checked us out. They gave me the option of either riding in the ambulance to the hospital or going back with my mother and going to the hospital. I chose to go back with my mother to go to the hospital because she was going there anyway, so there was no need. We were going to get there about the same time, whether it was in the ambulance or in the car. So up until this point, I had not felt any pain from the bite. I was trying to keep my heart rate down, trying to remain calm as you can in that situation, because I understood that the more you get worked up, the faster that venom, if it gets into your bloodstream, can impact some vital organs. So I was trying to remain as calm as I could, and we got to the hospital in about 20 minutes or so, and like I said, very little pain from the time that I was bitten to the time that I got to the hospital, which was about 30 minutes total. So the first 30 minutes, pain level between 0 and 1. By the time I'd gotten to the hospital, it felt like someone had kind of bumped my shin, like I'd bumped my shin into something, a little knock, but nothing serious. So we went to the hospital, got checked in. The on-call nurses and the emergency room did a great job. We got right back into an emergency room triage area, and the doctor came in, and so we spent probably the next 3 hours or so in that triage room with the doctor making notes. So she made a circle around the bite with like a Sharpie marker, and what they were looking for was to see if the swelling expanded outside of a certain area, and so that was going to be the judgment of whether an envenomation had occurred or not. And at that point, we would know. They would know whether to administer antivenom or to just monitor the situation. So So as the night progressed, so I was bitten in the early afternoon, around 5:30 or so. So as the afternoon and night progressed, my pain steadily increased, not to the point where it was excruciating, and within the first couple of hours, but still, as it went on, it was more and more noticeable. So at about 8:30 at night, the doctors were deciding to administer the antivenom, and because the swelling had progressed to the point where they were not comfortable that it was a dry bite. At that point, the pain was probably about a 5 or so on the scale of 1 to 10. I had not yet taken any pain medication. I was pretty adamant to not pay the $40 for Tylenol or whatever it was going to cost if it happened to be a dry bite. So I was trying to tough it out and see if I could make it with just an emergency room visit. Little did I know. So they started to pull the antivenom, out of the storage and get everything ready. And between hours 0 to 3, my pain never got above a 5. Between hours 3 and 4, it went from a 5 to almost a 10. So at some point in that time range so it would have been between like 8:30 and 9:30 at night, a good 3.5, 4 hours after I received the bite, my leg started getting really hot and felt like somebody had poured molten lava through my veins. That's how bad it hurt. So at that point, I was fully on board then with the antivenom injections, and then went ahead and took some pain medicine once that I knew I was in for the long haul. At that point, I don't really remember a whole lot. The pain medicine worked as it was intended to, and therefore I don't really remember from that time until sometime early hours of the mornings, the next morning, really a whole lot of anything. What I do know from what people have told me, they gave me 10 vials of antivenom, which was done by weight, and I was admitted into the hospital for observation after the antivenom. So spent the night in the hospital, woke up the next morning, and there was significant swelling of my left leg, all the way from my ankle all the way to my hip. It looked like, I'm sorry for the graphic details, but it looked like a bratwurst or an overstuffed sausage. The skin was all stretched out and smooth, and it looked like if you poked it, sausage juice would go flying out. So it was not a pretty sight. I might have some pictures. If I do, I'll put in some pictures somewhere to show you if they're not too revealing or graphic, because like I said, it was from my ankle all the way up to my hip where the swelling was. That swelling stayed at that level for most of the day the next day. So I got bit on a Saturday, all day Sunday. No, I apologize. I got bit on a Sunday afternoon, all day Monday. It was swollen to the point where, it was unmovable. By Sunday afternoon, it was going down a little bit, and so I was able to move around. The interesting thing was that every time I tried to go and take my leg past parallel, so like if I was laying on the bed, if I tried to drop my leg down, the pain was excruciating. So trying to use the restroom, trying to get up for any reason out of the hospital bed was excruciating pain. So for the most part, I laid in bed for those 24 hours. Thankfully, after 24 hours, the doctors came back in and they said all the blood work looks good. We don't see any abnormalities there, which is good. They didn't see anything that would impact me going home. So I was able to go home right at about the 24-hour mark of being in the hospital. And I'll kind of abbreviate things from here because not a whole lot of things have happened since that point. But so I got home, and still the biggest impact was my ability to stand up and walk. Anytime I dropped my leg down past like I guess parallel to the ground, anytime it went down below that, it was excruciating pain almost for another week. So I had difficulty walking. I used crutches for a week, and then a cane for probably about 3 weeks after that, to the point where I could not stand without it. It wasn't even there for like just a support thing. It was so painful that I could not walk without it. So it was a full month post-bite that I was having day-to-day struggles, significant pain from that bite. Now, so it's been almost a year. For the most part, I do not have ongoing pain related to it. Every once in a while, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what the reasoning behind it is, but it's very random where I'll get sharp shooting pains for like a day in that general area of where the bite occurred. And I'm not sure if that's some neurological damage that happened as part of the bite, or what that is, but it's only started happening when it got cold, and it's usually when it's raining as well, so I'm not sure if that's a trigger for it or if it's just a coincidence that that's happening. But I have had a couple of occasions here, since we're coming out of winter now. It's mid-April, but like in January, February, where that's the coldest months here in South Carolina, where it got very cold and rainy, and I did have to use my cane periodically, especially if I was going to be on my feet for a while. I would use the cane. But other than that, very limited side effects. I do consider myself quite lucky. Like I mentioned, I did go to the hospital and was admitted into the hospital within 30 minutes of receiving the bite. So about as fast as I possibly could, and was under observation from that point. So So some things that I'm very thankful for are the fact that the hospital staff, they never questioned me at all. They took what I had to say. When I told them what kind of animal it was that bit me, what species it was. Now, of course, I was talking intelligently, and sounded educated, but they never asked me for pictures or for proof of the animal. They trusted what I said, and somewhat they could tell by the reaction what had happened, because that is a native snake, and they've probably seen that before, but still they never questioned it. They reacted. Everyone at the hospital was incredibly nice about the situation. We went to some follow-up doctors after that. Everyone was very supportive and helpful and all that. So thankful to the staff at the hospital that they trusted me and that they took everything as seriously as I did, and that they helped in my treatment and recovery in the way they did. I am a lot more cautious when I go out now than I was before, because this experience taught me a lot. It taught me to be very thankful for the health that I have. It taught me that all of that can be taken away very quickly, because one moment I was perfectly healthy, having a good time doing what I enjoy doing. The next moment I was bedridden, or facing being bedridden for a month, and luckily it could have been a lot longer than that. So I also wanted to note that I do not hold any ill will towards that rattlesnake. I do not have any different opinions of rattlesnakes. I've always loved snakes. I always have been in awe of rattlesnakes, especially since we have 2 species of rattlesnakes that are native to South Carolina, or well, 3 species of rattlesnakes that are native to South Carolina, and I've always been in awe of them. I've always respected them, and never wanted to do any harm, and that stays the same. That animal was reacting to a situation in the only way that it thought it could, because it was about to be stepped on. So I did not go back and search for that animal. I did not try and harm that animal. It was trying to live its life, and I threatened it. So those are the questions that I get most often: is, do you still have pain from it? And, you know, do you now hate rattlesnakes? Yes, I do still have some pain from it. No, I do not hate rattlesnakes. So I do I do wear snake boots anytime I go in the woods now, because I do not want to risk a second bite. And I am also a little bit skittish of stuff rustling in front of me now. Every time that happens, I can see myself jumping back a little bit more than I would have done normally. So I hope that me telling this story gives you a greater appreciation for the rattlesnakes, because I know I do have even more of an appreciation for them now. I don't want it to scare you. You know, there's the potential, you know, there are rattlesnakes out there. There's a potential that any given person can get bitten. The fact that it happened to me, it's just chance. But I do want to tell my story to show that I was bitten. I wasn't being foolish. It can happen, but you can also, like, there's life after it. Like, it's not, if you do the right things, follow the right protocols, understand what you're supposed to do, there's no reason that you can't have a full recovery from that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you can take this as somewhat entertainment. I want it to be a good story. It is a good story now. It's been a year, but it truly was the scariest day of my life, because it was all new stuff. I didn't know what to expect, and I'm very thankful that I've come out of that situation the way that I have. So hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and hope to catch you on the next video. Thanks.